From Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world, I'm David Gabry, and this is the Vegas Faces Podcast, where we talk with Las Vegas locals about what it's really like to live in the City of Lights. Whether you're living in Vegas, moving to Vegas, or just visiting Vegas and looking for new adventures, together let's discover the hidden gems that make Sin City the most visited place on earth. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Vegas Faces Podcast, where we talk to the people of Vegas and we see what it's really like to live in the entertainment capital of the world. I got my buddy Pablo Rodriguez in town. We did stand-up comedy in Chicago for many, many years. Pablo was here before Vegas Faces was even a podcast, when it was just an idea. He's been a huge help on the producing side, behind the scenes. Pablo was in town in Las Vegas with tickets to U2 at the Las Vegas Sphere. So we're going to get into that, talk about our experience going inside the Sphere. Pablo, without further ado, man, welcome to Vegas Faces.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Like everything has been great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. I really want to get into our Sphere experience, man. But like really though, what's fascinating to me is that obviously the Sphere itself from the outside, everyone's been enamored by it, right? Like it's like that people are calling it the eighth wonder of the world. It's been ridiculous. And then to go inside the Sphere, that's a whole nother level of experience that I feel like not a lot of people have had. Like it's already a thing to come to Vegas to see the Sphere just from the outside, like people flying in. Ooh, I saw the Sphere from the window and this and that. But to actually go inside and see the U2 concert, I'm like still like on an adrenaline high from it. Like it was like, and this is coming from someone that like, I only know maybe at most 5 U2 songs. Like I'm not like a diehard U2. I obviously know them. They've been around for a very long time, very successful. Everybody knows U2 and Bono and all the guys. But for me, I was like, it doesn't even matter if I know these songs. Like the way that the Sphere with the screens and everything, it was mind blowing, really. So that was kind of my take, and I kind of want to just like recap the night.
Yeah. Because
I think that there's a lot of questions, like simple questions, like where do we park? Like where does one go? Like how does it work? So you coming from Chicago, staying in Vegas for the weekend, like what was your thought on, because I know like we tried to, you were like, we should get there like 4 hours early. And I was like, nah, traffic isn't going to be that bad. And then we left like an hour early. We clearly didn't have enough time. And we were scrambling. We didn't know what to do. Like we got into the wrong line. Like we thought we were in the right line for parking. And then we ended up in like a rideshare line. And they were like, oh, you got to leave the Sphere and come back. And we were like, what? What are you talking about? We've got like 15 minutes before show starts. So just from that alone, I think we got lucky in that the show supposed to start at 8, didn't start till about 8:30. So I don't know if that's a usual thing for people going to the Sphere to see U2. You got about a 30-minute window. So that alone was kind of a big help. But we parked, what did we do? We parked at the Mirage, walked to the Venetian, did the Sky Bridge, and eventually got in. And we were like, whew, the show hasn't started yet. We're good. But I did feel a little bit bad. I was like, damn, Pablo flew all the way from Chicago. Like he came here to see U2, and I'm all like, yeah, we got time. We got time, but we made it work, I guess. So
yeah, we did. It was quite the experience. I flew in on what did I fly in on Friday night, and the show was on Saturday, and the whole point was the whole thing started because I was like, I just want to see U2. Right, I just wanted to see them, and then I looked up when they were going to be performing and to see if they were in Chicago area by any chance because they go worldwide, and then I'm like, what's this? They're at the Sphere, and then they're like, there's like a YouTube video out, and I'm kind of like, I started watching it, I'm like, what? And I didn't because it was literally being built, and this is back in like July or something like that, and eventually I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, that's going to be some kind of crazy video experience or whatever. I'm like, I just want to see the band. And so then I'm like, I have friends out there, love to see Gabry out there and hang out. And so let's go do it. And I get tickets and then I start looking more into it. And I'm kind of like, oh, this is like a new way to experience music, And so then I'm kind of like, okay, well, we got tickets. Let's go. Let's hang out. You're like, yeah, let's do it. And then when I flew in, I wasn't able to see it like a lot of people say they can because I was in the aisle seat, and so I couldn't really get a look out the window. But then last night when we did go, we could see it from plenty far, from the express or from the highway. And then when we did start to kind of get closer and closer, it started to become, the experience ended up being like before we even got out of the car because, you mind if I get into it, the parking lot?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
so we were, Gary was really good about having a particular plan. And he was like, okay, the good news is we're gonna park here, we're gonna walk, it's gonna be this nice bridge. And I was kind of like, cool, let's do it. And then we noticed like we were leaving and we were getting there, like it was like the show's at 8 and we're previously been performers, so we're like, it's not gonna start on time. But it's like Gary's like, it's also Vegas.
Yeah, I have a
So
theory, and like Vegas shows tend to start close to on time because they want you back into the casino, right? Like they don't, you're never gonna like, you know, performers that are like notoriously like 3 hours late and they made people wait and it, like those kinds of things, or they perform for like 6 hours or something
Yeah.
crazy. Like you're never gonna see that here because there's casinos here and they want them back in the casino. So that was kind of my thing. I was like, shit, like this thing's gonna start close to on time. Like we got to get there like close to 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and it's not like they need an opening act. They don't. So I mean, it's not like they're up and comers. Like they are the band. So I'm kind of like, all right. Well, I'm like, I still think. I mean, I was kind of buying into what you were saying. I'm like, oh, maybe we're gonna. I'm like, you know what? Let's just try to get there. And then you're like, you know what? We're just gonna park at the Sphere. And then I'm like, okay. And so Gavri all of a sudden is like driving, and then we and I'm not a Vegas person, so I don't know how to drive around here. But you can make U-turns and all this stuff, and you can't do that in Chicago. So it's like you make a U-turn into what we thought was the Sphere. Like we were actually gonna park away from the Sphere because they started to get a little hard. And then you're like, wait, and then you make a U-turn and you just
We're also in a giant Chevy Suburban,
yeah.
so
And-
like cars move out the way.
And then we cut the line. We cut
You were
this.
like- you were like-
There's like a block and a half long line to get into the Sphere, what we thought was a Sphere, and then you just cut. I'm like, are we in line for the Sphere? And you're like, yeah, I think we are.
We are, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, so we're gonna be able to get in here pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then we go ahead and we go, and then we turn in, and thus begins this incredible experience we have pre-Sphere with the Sphere parking attendants, who are very interesting individuals.
Very on edge.
Very on edge.
Very on edge individuals.
So we come up to this part where we're like, okay, this is literally the Sphere parking, and the three guys who were handling traffic that was handling what we found to be rideshare coming in and going out, as well as traffic that was going by. They were very aggressive, and they're just kind of like, come
Like,
on.
move, hurry, hurry.
Yeah, they're like screaming at people.
We're like, shit, I guess we got to go this way.
But they weren't talking to us. They were talking
okay.
to them. They were talking
Okay.
because with us, they were just like, hang on. Remember that guy? You were going, and the guy was like, whoa, whoa. And then you got really close to him. He's like, whoa, whoa. And you're like, no problem. We're both like, okay. And then he looked at us like, hey, just give us a second. Like, it was really nice.
Yeah.
And then they turned around to the people that were driving. Hey, he's like, calm down. Yo,
Starts yelling.
let's go. And just really, and then we're both like, wow, this is like they're like, and then I'm like, okay, they're under pressure.
And
But
it's a Saturday night, so maybe
Yeah.
it's a little more hectic than
Right.
usually, whatever. But
So they let us through, and we're like, cool, we're going to park at the Sphere. And we go in, and then we realize we're in rideshare drop-off.
yeah, like no one said anything. They were
Right.
just like, get over here, go, go,
Yeah.
go. We're like, okay, go.
And then-
we don't find out until it's too late. Now we're just stuck in a line that we don't want to
Right.
be in. And we're like, clock's ticking. Uh-oh, like,
Yeah.
what do we do? And I'm like, oh, so how do we get out of here? Maybe we just, go back that way.
So he asks one of the attendants, and then they're like, oh, yeah, to do that, you have to go up here, make a left, come back to where I am on the other side of this fence thing. And then you're going to go out down the street, and the parking will be there. And we're like, okay. And then we just go, and we do what they say. And then right before we go back to where we were, you roll your window down to this guy that has like this massively long red beard. And he's just, and then we're like, sir, like, hey, where do we go for? And he's just like, take Sahara, go
Gave
down
us,
to
like,
Manhattan.
5 street
Yeah,
names, and
but
I'm
it was
like,
a-
Manhattan? Like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that street.
He's like, you make a left here, but and then halfway through, I remember just being like, this guy is either lying to us or he's just like on something because he's so like
Yeah,
so
not into helping us.
right? And he's just throwing out words.
Yeah.
he was just like, make a left on the right
I'm
here.
like,
at
but we're
Manhattan."
already at the Sphere. Like, what does that mean? Why is he saying street names? Like, I'm
Yeah.
so confused. Like, but we're here. So, all in all, in short, we were unsuccessful in parking at the Sphere. We did get told Lot S is the parking lot.
Right.
We didn't make it to Lot S because our grumpy traffic people from before wouldn't let us turn into Lot S. So we were like, finally, we're here. that's where we go. Go to lot S. And they were like, you got to make a right. And I was like, but we got to make a left because we want to go to lot S.
Right.
And I thought by dropping lot S that they were like, oh, this guy knows where he's going. Let's part the way for him.
No.
They were they yelled at us in like the nicest
nice
way. He was like,
yeah.
sir, please just
I'm
make
trying.
a right.
Yeah. What did he say? Because he was gonna.
And he was like, thank you, please, and thank you.
Yeah.
And we were like, fuck, we should have just stuck to the original plan. I was trying to like shave off like 30 minutes, but
And then he even said he goes right now I have to do this because he's like explaining himself, but then the other guy was coming from behind them and they're just like, and we're like, we gotta get out of here.
It was very like, hey, please do this, otherwise my boss will yell at me, kind of energy.
Yeah.
And so we were like, all right, man, whatever. So we stuck to the original plan, which was I try to avoid all the mess of traffic. So instead of parking at Venetian, I was like, why don't we just park at like Treasure Island or Mirage right across the street? It's like, what do we just have to do a crosswalk? And now we're at Venetian. So we parked there, walked across, and then eventually found our way to the sky bridge that led us to the Sphere. And we're still frantic. We're like, oh man, this concert hasn't started yet. But we saw the hordes and the crowds of people, and we're like, there's no way they're starting it. There's too many people still getting in line.
Right.
So that kind of gave us like some comforting, like, I think we can relax. But it wasn't really until we got to our seats where we were like, whew. And then for like a split second, I was like, is the concert over? Because it hadn't started yet, and everything felt like it was broken down. Like the screens weren't up yet, and I was like, oh, this feels like the after show. Like it feels like we missed it, but I mean, obviously we didn't. But
Yeah.
it was kind of hectic figuring out the parking. So that was kind of our experience, not knowing anything about Sphere parking.
Yeah, I think in the end, what I think in our situation, like it was good that we ended up going with the original plan and then just like getting there. Like we just walked through where we needed to get, and we got there, and it was fine. One thing that would help probably is people who are looking to go, just make a decision on early on, like, okay, what time. You should probably get there like an hour. I'm gonna say just get there like, if your shows typically run at 8:00, get there at like 7:15. Park wherever you need to park, and then comfortably walk to wherever you're gonna go. And then when the guy told us the show starts at like 8:30, 8:40.
Right. Yeah.
So as
8
long
o'clock
as
on the ticket, but
yeah, as long as
didn't
you
start.
Plus, by the time we went to the bathroom, we
Yeah.
kind of found our seats. We got to do that pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
So if people get there at like 7:30, and then you start making your way there, and then you by the time you get through security and everything, it'll be like 8:15. Go to the bathroom, get your seats. We were seated. I remember we went in at 8:30.
Yeah, and that was another thing too. There's like a TSA security line, which I think all big venues have these days, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, but I want to like go into like what were your initial thoughts going into the Sphere? Like for me, it felt like we were on like a spaceship. Like it was very futuristic. It was very like, I've never seen an entertainment venue like this before. Like it had all the things that other entertainment venues have. You know, like when we go to the Vegas Knights game, like for hockey, it's like, okay, like this is clearly, like an entertainment venue. But this, like the way the lighting was, the ambiance, it was like very futuristic, and it was like completely different. Like it was almost alien. Like I kept saying, like, I was like, this is on another planet,
Right.
like being inside the Sphere. And that was like before the screens. Like that was before getting into the venue. It was just on the outskirts of it where you're, the concessions, where to eat and all that type of stuff. I just kept looking up like, what is all this?
Right. Yeah, no, it's when my thoughts was like, I just want to see U2 in concert, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like when I got there, and I remember I told you, I was like, I didn't watch any videos, I didn't watch anything about the Sphere. I don't have social media on my phone for the most part. So anytime I did have it, because I was gonna check something, to see if I get any messages, it's like I would see something and I would just like swipe away from it. I would just like not watch it because I'm like, let me just see it in person. And then again, I just want to see a band. And so like when I walked in, I was kind of like, okay, I saw the outside. Let me just kind of go in and experience how it would be if I was at the United Center in Chicago, or if I was going to be wherever. It's just a venue, so let's just see what happens. They didn't have the robots, which I was waiting for.
I was a little bummed about that.
Yeah, so apparently why did they say the robots?
They said that they don't do it for the concerts. They do it for the Darren Aronofsky film. It's like an IMAX film type of thing that you can go see. I forget the name of it, but But it's
Okay.
funny because you were all about U2. You were like, I just want to see U2. In fact, like I remember I was like, dude, Pablo, they got like vibrating chairs and they move and they're doing 4D technology. And you're like, man, I don't want to have a heart attack during the concert.
Yeah.
Like I just want to see the band. And for me, I was all about the Sphere. It was like for me, it was Sphere first and then U2. For you, it was like U2 first and then everything else.
Yeah.
So I was like a kid in a candy store, like, wow, I'm finally inside the Sphere. I've seen it on the outside so many times, but
Right.
to be in there, I was like, how many times did I leave the seats and I was like, Pablo, I'm just gonna go from this angle. What is it? What does the
Right.
concert look like from up here? Like I got yelled at a bunch of times, like, hey sir, go back to your seat.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to see it from all different angles because I was
Right.
like, I don't know when I'm gonna be back in here. Like
Right.
this is like I want to like maximize my stay while I'm here.
No, I thought that was a good move. I was when you did that, when you took off, I was kind of like, I hope he doesn't get thrown out, because I was a little worried about that. I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you, you're a full grown man, so I'm not gonna be like, no, David, you gotta sit down. I was just kind of like, let's just see what happens. And then I was kind of like, okay, let's see. And then you started to send me videos and pictures, and I was like, whoa, he's everywhere, you know. And so David got to go like not only, and you'll tell everybody about it in a second, but to be on the receiving end of a bunch of videos and photos, because our seats were not ones that you could see the entire Sphere screen or video background. But you got to see it firsthand. I saw it for like a few seconds when I went in towards the end of the set. 'Cause
You
I
were
just
like,
wanted to
I'm
see
gonna
it.
go do it. And I was like, yeah. And then he came back like 5 seconds later.
Yeah, I'm like, I just walked because
I get it.
I've never seen that screen.
Yeah.
But in Chicago, we or never had to see other places. If anybody here goes to their local or to their city's what's that? Excuse me, planetarium, they do have dome like videos, like movies.
Yeah.
So they're pretty intense because they're about like natural things that happen and natural disasters and stuff. So it's like really intense. But that one obviously is the Sphere is like massively,
Yeah.
it's like on another level.
Makes you feel so small. And it was ironic that we had also went to Red Rock Canyon that same day,
Right.
and you were talking about like, wow, it's a very humbling experience. All these giant mountains, like you feel so small and
Yeah.
insignificant. Kind of the same feeling in the Sphere. I'm like, wow, like this is so massive. Like, and it's so funny because it's like it's just a screen at the end of the day.
Right.
But it's the way what they put on the screen, how they do it. It makes you feel like, oh, are we moving right now? Like,
Right.
there's so many cool different like ways they did it that just makes you feel tiny.
Yeah, there was a guy who you talked to after the show, and it was really funny because there were moments where I was like watching the show and I was enjoying it. And to be clear, like I'm not like I grew up with different music. We all grew up with different music, but U2 was like a band that I only heard like certain times, but they were always like in the background of my life, right? And then when I got older, I caught on to them, and then when I started doing stand up, I listened to them a lot more. So it's not like I grew up with them, but I did hear them. But so there were people there though that were like all about them, and that
Totally.
the
They knew
album,
every word to every song.
and that album that they are playing is one of their earlier ones. It's not, and they focused on that one, and then they did some hits of other areas in the middle and then towards the end. But it's like that one's about, and I can't pronounce it, but it's Octung Baby, and so it's like
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I don't know. I don't even know if that's right, but it's like that's the album that they're mostly covering, and I think, and it was great. But watching people, if you go to the show, it's really for, I don't think it's for them, but it's like if you have been with U2 from the beginning, you're gonna love it, and you're gonna be like amazed. And then on top of it, when you talk to that guy, you guys were, he was talking like, oh, he was like unreal because, blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I'm like, I think it's because you love U2. That's why it was like unreal for you. But then like you were talking about it more like how unbelievable
The
right?
Sphere,
the
yeah.
Sphere,
Yeah,
right?
it's so funny.
And that's where I was sitting there going like, I don't think this guy knows that it's not that it's not a big deal, because it is.
Yeah, I get
but
it,
it's
I
because
get
he
it.
loves the music.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why there was people online too that were like once in a lifetime experience. I'm like, no, it's gonna be happening again in March.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
gonna happen in February.
Yeah,
But it's
that's a
because
good
they
point.
love their music. If they were like us, where we appreciate the band,
Uh-huh.
they're amazing. You were even like less than that. You're just kind of like,
I know like 5 songs
Right.
max, and I recognized them, and I'm like,
Right.
oh yeah, I've heard the song, and even the ones that I recognize, I'm not like, I don't have it on a playlist. I'm not
Right.
like, you know, I don't have it playing all the time.
Right.
But I'm like, oh yeah, I can appreciate this.
yeah.
But I was more enamored by the sheer like magnitude of like what they did to that thing
Yeah.
inside.
And that's for me, at least, that's where I'm like, that's something that when I did see some videos, and then when I the little bit of time that I was there, I was kind of like, I get it. I'm like, but I'm not like gonna be. If it was a band that maybe I really loved, then I would be like the people that were next to us.
Which
From
good question, by the way. Who would you like to see there? Like, what do you think happens to you two in terms of how long they have their residency there? Like, because part of when you said that they focus more on this one album, does that mean are they gearing up for multiple album like type of shows
I
to
don't
where
know.
they're going to be here for years, or do you think after 1 year they say MSG Sphere says, you know what, you two had a good run, let's give it to someone else now, let's put in.
Yeah, I think the whole
And who would it be?
I think the whole point was like the Sphere was something that, and I can't remember the guy who owns the Knicks. I think is the one that was kind of a big part of it with Madison Square Entertainment or whatever it's called. But they had a big hand in it, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think they were like, listen, this is a lot of money, obviously, right? We're making a massive investment. We want this thing to work. We got to find a band that is like massive, has a mega, like, it's not, and so some people who are,
Who do you think would have been also in the running in that?
it would have been like, but it can't be like, it would have to be like a Taylor Swift-ish, person.
Okay.
But even then, it's like,
Because U2 has the history. They've been
Right.
around from like the 70s,
but
right?
and that's it's like the 80s.
So
the
would
80,
it,
I think
so
84.
I'm thinking like Rolling Stones maybe.
Right. You have to have people that have disposable
Have like
cash.
history, like Paul McCartney maybe, like someone
Yeah.
who's been around for so long and has been legendary for so long.
Like to have it be someone that's on the younger side, Taylor Swift would make sense. But even she's gonna sell it out. But will all the adults that obviously she has fans of, but it's a lot of kids and a lot of
Will
youngsters.
people come from all over the world to see Taylor Swift? Like, I mean, the guy sitting next to us was like from France or something. Like everyone there was definitely there from somewhere else. Not everyone, but a lot of people. And to your point, you got to have someone who draws worldwide audience.
You have people that draw, like, again, it's like, who has money to spend? I'm not saying that
okay.
18-year-olds don't, or
The
that
fan
20
base.
years old.
Okay.
The fan base, like, people are going to, and then they picked that album
Yeah, that's a
because
great
people
point.
are going to be like, when I told my sister, she's like, that's my favorite album. And then I'm like, I know she's going to try to probably go get tickets, right? But it's like, if you don't have that history, like, of us growing up,
Yes.
and going like, oh, that song, remember that song? And it's like, that's going to make me want to go and hear it, plus the Sphere.
Damn, so you got to have not just the historic, legendary status, but also the fan base that has the expendable income.
Right.
Therefore, maybe
And
that's
a
why it
lot
does
of
make
them.
sense to go with the older.
How is a 20-year-old who's in,
Yeah, like Justin Bieber, like not all his fan base is going to drop, $400 or $500 on a seat inside the Sphere.
it'd be like 1,300, 2,000. You know what I mean? Like, depending on the price, because ours were different, right? Because
Yeah.
we didn't get the whole Sphere thing. But it's like if you do that thing's up there.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they wouldn't, or there are kids that can't. I'm just saying like that many kids are gonna because remember it's twice a week
Yeah.
for almost from
Like
now
6
it was
months.
What was it, August they were there? It started
September, yeah.
to at least now March.
Wow.
And they're taking a little bit of time off for the holidays. It's like, come on, like you not every youngster is gonna be able to afford that.
That's a good point. So then, with all those credentials, who do you see other than Rolling Stones?
But Madonna, you know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
maybe a Madonna, something like that.
Do you think
Or
Lady Gaga has
Lady
that fan
Gaga,
base yet?
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So people like that, you know.
Adele?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
great example. Adele. I mean, it used to be like Celine Dion. You know?
Backstreet Boys, you think if they made a comeback, they
No,
would?
I don't think they're gonna have the Spirit anytime soon. Backstreet's not gonna be back. But yeah, so those kinds of entertainers, like you have to have something that's gonna be like people are willing to go and experience it.
Yeah.
And there was a couple in front of us, like I'm making out, and I was and I'm like, yeah, they're feeling like they're 20 again.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
Because they're in
nostalgia.
their 40s, 50s. You're just buying that, you know. And for me though, like I didn't grow up listening to them, but I did in my 20s start listening to them. So I'm going there, going like, I just want to see them live.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind not seeing the screen because I'm like, if it was a different band that I maybe
It's not that we didn't see the screen. We just sat underneath the other upper tiers,
Right.
To where we still saw it.
We
We
saw
just
it.
didn't like.
The
We had
full.
a little bit of a canopy above us,
Right.
So that's all that was. But that further motivated me to be like, I'm just gonna go all the way down
Yeah.
there, like I'm in my teens at a basketball game. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see if there's other seats down there.
available. Who didn't show up?
Yeah.
Let me just go sit there.
Yeah, and I'll say that I didn't get kicked out, but I definitely people were like, okay, man, take your last picture, and then get back up there. Like
Right.
they were actually very nice because they were like, we get it. Take your photos. Everyone there has got their video cameras ready and their phones ready, and everybody gets it. Everybody's on board with like, take as many photos and videos as you want. We get this. This is quite a spectacle.
Right.
So other than that, though, where do we go from here, Pablo?
Well, there's a lot of like there was plenty of I think too. It was really great to see people in there. Just it wasn't like I don't want to say the idea of like a hostile environment or anything like that. But then sometimes you'll be at concerts and it gets out of control. It's a really mellow.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's like energized,
Yeah,
ready
no
to go.
mosh pits or anything.
Right. People are gonna be excited. Right.
Yeah.
General admissions was like even they were like it wasn't crazy down there.
It was very classy.
Yeah. It's
You
people.
didn't see like people flicking cigarettes and like going
this-
wild. Like people are drinking, but also maybe because beers are like $20. Like I don't know if that's normal for like a concert, but
Right.
you know, what are you gonna buy? You know, spend $100 on beer to try to get
People might
plastered
show
at the U2
people
concert?
might show up, drunk,
True.
but
This
it's
is
like
Vegas, that's
but
true.
but it's also a thing where I think people really want to be there. So no one's looking to like mess up the night.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? People are going to be focused. Again, people are going to be focused in on the act. They want to see them and have the nostalgia and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a great experience. If you have a chance to do it, like you should check it out. And then you got to know one of the security officers, right? How did that go?
All right, so Pablo gets access to the set list, so he knows exactly what song we're on at all times. And so he's like, okay, it looks like we've got about like 3 or 4 more songs left. And I'm like, okay. With that in mind, I'm gonna get out of here and just like see what other like parts of this sphere from the inside, like where I can like get like different angles of photos and videos and things like that. And so I start asking a security guard. I'm like, hey, around what time does this show normally end? And he's like, around 10:30, 10:40. And I'm like, okay, great. And I start going on the escalator, and they're like, oh, hold on, we're closing the escalator. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then this one like escalator guy was like, hey man, you can come up there with me, and then we'll just close it on the way down or on the way up, and I'll show you like a really cool spot to get like a good angle of footage. And I'm like, all right, cool, man. Now here's a funny fun fact. I'm afraid of heights. Like I do not do heights. And these escalators are not for one floor. They were for like 4 floors.
Right.
And it was a long way up. And I'm like standing on this escalator talking to this guy, making small talk, and I'm just realizing like, oh man, we're getting higher and higher up there.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to play it cool because I'm like I'm not trying to show this guy that I'm afraid of the escalator. And so we finally get off the escalator, and in my mind and inside I'm like, whew. And then he goes, okay, we're going to go on the next escalator. And I was like, oh. And I almost, like, a part of me wanted to just be like, I'm just going to take the elevator. But I wanted to see that angle. I was like, what is he talking about? Like, all the way from the top, this is going to be badass. So I'm, like, basically laying on the railing of the escalator, but, like, trying to play it cool. Be like, so, man, how long you been in Vegas? Hey, have you heard of the Vegas Faces podcast? Like, try not to be scared of this escalator.
You're like hugging
I'm looking down. I'm like, because we basically went from the first floor to I think the 6th or 7th floor in just 2 escalators. And so, I'm finally happy to be on, not looking over like I don't do balconies. I don't do any of that stuff, dude. Keep me on the ground. So we get there and of course, like within minutes, someone's like, oh, you got to go to your seat. And I was like, oh, right. Okay. But at least I got some footage and this and that. And I texted you and I was like, oh man, check it out. I'm all the way at the top. Like it was wild. Like there's not a bad seat in this place. And I think Vegas does a really good job at that. Like I've seen, comedy shows and Cirque du Soleil and stuff like that. It's like no matter where you sit, like you have a good view of the stage and of the performers, and it's really, really good experience. So here, again, going back to like how I was just really into the sphere more than you two, I was just like blown away. Like, man, this angle right here, holy crap. While, of course, people were like, hey, get back to your seat, buddy.
Right.
But in a nice way, Hey, take your picture. That's cool. But also, come on. And I was like, and at that point, I was like, we're on like the second to last song. If I get kicked out, that's okay. I'll just text Pablo and be like, I'll meet you at the Venetian or something. So I was willing to take that risk.
Yeah, no, it was great, and I think you have great pictures. Those of you who haven't had a chance, look on your social media, right? You posted them.
Yeah.
So you go to Gavry Group.
Gavry Group on Instagram. Yep.
Yeah, check it out there, and it's a lot of those you sent me are up there, and I think it's a really good example or showing of what it actually will look like at the Sphere. But really great time. I thought it was awesome, and I think that exiting also before I forget.
I was like,
Oh wait, no. The other thing was when we were in. Hang on, I'm trying to remember. When we were in the outside area, kind of waiting to go in, there's just a lot of people like kind of hanging out, which is fine. But again, going back, I guess we kind of talked about that, but it's like the vibe is always really mellow. And even when we were leaving is the only time that it got like a little intense because everybody was trying to kind of get out.
I was like, is this a fire hazard? You're like, you
Yeah,
would go, of course. So you're like, oh
yeah,
yeah.
it was
Like
pretty intense.
we were just like shoulder to shoulder, like moving as one, like
Right.
in through this this whatever you call it, sky bridge that connects from the Sphere to the Venetian.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, you start getting those thoughts of like, oh, when people get trampled to death and things like that, and you're like, oh man, if something like major happened right now, like it would be one of those scary situations. And I'm sure they've thought of it at
Yeah.
the Sphere. I'm sure they've got it all mapped out, but yeah, you feel a little bit claustrophobic for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then as people start clearing out, you know,
They
opens
opened up
a little bit more.
Yeah, it opened up like they had one of the bridges. It looked like they opened it up, but they had it closed and then they opened it up, and all of a sudden the line just shifted to the right, and then all of a sudden the people who were not moving to the right almost looked like they were running, and they weren't. They were just walking finally as fast as they wanted,
Yeah.
and people were on the
But
move.
of course, you had like your drunk jackasses that were just pushing, like trying to go
Yeah,
through, and you're like,
yeah.
all right. Like we were all gonna get there at the same time. Like you're not gonna
Right.
get there that much faster.
Right. Yeah,
But
it was awesome.
overall, yeah, I'm really happy. And what's really cool about Vegas too, and I was telling Pablo this because he was like, man, there's gonna be like major traffic because in any other city, like if U2's in town, like the whole city like shuts down or a big part of it at least. There's big traffic. And it's only for U2 or it's only for like a major sporting event. Here, there's so much entertainment happening simultaneously at all times. It's just a blur.
The NBA
Yeah.
in-season tournament was this weekend.
Yeah, like it's literally just like there's too much happening all at all times of every single night of the week to where it's like it's just a blur of the same kind of traffic because that's just what the strip is. Like you've got the Sphere, U2 over here, but then like you said, the NBA over there, maybe Adele's over there. You got maybe Lady Gaga on this side. You got the
Right.
Raiders playing over here. Like the Vegas
Yeah.
Knights might be playing too on that night. Like it's just so much happening all at once to where it's like just I'd say we left an hour before. I probably would have felt better if we had left like an hour and a half before. Like that
Yeah.
extra 30 minutes probably
Just to do it mellow.
unexpected.
Just
for
to do it
unexpected.
mellow,
Yeah,
you know?
like getting stuck in that line we didn't want to get stuck into. Like just for unexpected things, give yourself a little bit more of a cushion.
Yeah, it's there's, I don't know. I always tell people anything I do, I like to do it in comfort and just kind of like mellow. Like what time are we supposed to be there? Oh, let's get there a little earlier than that. So I'm always, even when I'm performing, I was always known for being on time, early. I don't even want to be late. And so when we were getting there, I didn't have a problem with it. Remember, there was a point also where I'm like, hey man, it's over. We're gonna be late. We're gonna miss the first 10 minutes,
we were
15.
okay
Who cares? Who cares?
We'd
I'm like, we
turn.
just cut that big line. You just did that U-turn and cut off half the people. They're mad. I'm
Yeah.
like, we can't get upset. And then we were just kind of like, yeah, it'll be all right. And then we just started walking, and then we were trying to make it on time again.
Yeah, we start jogging. We're jogging from Mirage to Venetian, and we're
My-
out
it was-
of breath. We're both out of shape. Like, it was, and I was like, man, this might motivate me to start jogging
I
again.
woke up in the middle of the night, and my shins I kept cramping up. And I'm like, oh, Gavri, you moron. And then I was just like, oh, I hate you. But I was just like, no, it's fine. But it was a thing where I think you're right. Get there, just plan on getting there early. If you're the kind of person that enjoys, and there's so many, right, that enjoy the Vegas environment, get there a little early, go somewhere to get a drink, and then, come on over to the Sphere. And they have drinks there too. You can do that as well. I think it's a really good night to see a legendary band. And then over time, like you said, because right now they're listing their last shows happening in the weekend of March 2nd. And so that's the email I got. They might add more for all I know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't represent them. We're not representing them. But who knows who the next act is. And the next act might be starting either in April or March or not till August. Maybe the run for them is going to be August to March.
Who do you think it's going to be? If you had to guess, not just what we talked about, the criteria of it, legendary, historical. They also have to have a fan base that can afford these tickets. But we went from U2, which is they're like a rock band, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you go another rock band? Do you go hip hop?
I think you nailed it.
go
I think
pop.
I think it's Adele. I think Adele is a really good one. I
Yeah,
feel like
do
she
you-
was just
okay,
here.
we male, so now do we go female? Like how do you think they decide.
I
Yeah,
think it just comes down to who got,
Adele or Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga.
I think it has nothing to do with like woman, man, rock, but nothing. I think they're like, who's gonna bring in money?
Yeah, good point.
That's the only thing they're
point.
thinking about.
I feel like Lady Gaga, just from like the visuals, man, I can't get over like how wild and crazy. Like there was like some Matrix design craziness. Like it doesn't even do it justice to describe it. Doesn't do it justice to even take the video of it. Like at one point they had a backdrop of the entire Vegas Strip, and if you sending the video to people, they were like, "Was this concert outside?"
All right.
Like they're like it was that vivid. And I don't know. Lady Gaga's known for like crazy spectacle and cool like performance, like all around just a big show. So I could see her doing it.
Yeah, it's gonna be who has a fan base that is. I mean, you make a good case with the Rolling Stones too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're a band that I know a couple of their songs, but I don't know them. I didn't obviously grow up with them, but it's a thing where I go, people would be coming to see them, and they don't have to move a lot. For those of you who haven't been there yet to the Sphere, it's just a stage. You know, if they turned off the screen, it would just be like a really nice, intimate. I think an intimate type of concert. So when you put the screen on, all of a sudden it's like a spectacle, but the Stones don't have to move a lot because there's only a stage. It's only so big, and they don't have to like run around. They can still do it.
And they can't. Yeah, they can do it if they have to.
But
if they don't have to, they'd probably prefer that.
Yeah, and let the screen do the work.
Yeah.
And then they just have to stand there and perform. You know, be there for your fans. Do the whole like you put the mic out there for them to sing the song instead of the singer doing it. But it's like that's part of it. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think it's going to be somebody like that. You know, it's going to be somebody that was world known, that can draw money, because they gotta make that thing sell out every time.
Totally.
Yeah, it was amazing.
To wrap this up, I want to say that afterwards we went for Korean barbecue. Like the show ended around close to 11, and then by the time we get out of the Venetian and get to back to the car, it's practically midnight, and we're like, okay, what's open at this time? Obviously, it's Vegas. There's a lot open at this time. We opted to not eat inside the casino. Not that those restaurants are fantastic, but for we
were going to go to a place called
for the local experience. Yeah, we were going to go somewhere where we're looking at the menu and it's like $20 for like I don't know one piece of lettuce. yeah. So we were just we were like, all right, let's get out of the casino. Let's do more of like a local experience. So. I suggested Korean barbecue, and Pablo hadn't eaten for a while, so he was like, just give me anything, and he's like, oh, he lit up when I said Korean barbecue, and I'm like, oh, word, okay, cool, man, like this guy's down with Korean barbecue.
You said that, I was like, oh yeah, let's do it.
We're talking like he hasn't hadn't eaten for a long time, and so then we get to the restaurant. We go, what was it called it was called like Baiwan. I'm probably mispronouncing it. It's on Sahara. Decatur area. Fantastic, by the way.
So good.
Shout out Baiwan Korean barbecue. And, like the worst thing in the world is like when you're starving and the food hits the table, but it's uncooked.
The whole point is like I was like really hungry. I basically just had breakfast early and then I didn't eat again. So after the concert, I was like, okay, let's go eat. And we had walked the whole way back, and then we're like this. And then all of a sudden, Gabby does the whole, you like Korean barbecue? I was like, yeah, because I had it before in Chicago. So I'm like, let's do it. It's going to be great. And then we get to the restaurant. I'm like, oh, so excited. I'm so cold. It was cold. I'm hungry. Like, this is it. And all of a sudden, I was noticing, like, he's like, this is what you can order. You can order from here. You can order, but if you get this, you can get everything. I'm like, let's get everything. So I'm like, let's get this. And they're like, this is all you can eat, right? Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is great. And all of a sudden, the server comes, can't take your order. We get order. I'm like, great. I'm like, okay, maybe 15 minutes, And Gary starts putting out all this like cookware, and I'm like, what the hell is all this about? And then he's just like, and I started looking around. I'm like, do you gotta cook your own? Are we gotta cook our own food? And he's like, he looked at me like, yeah.
Because to me that's what Korean barbecue is. But there are Korean barbecue restaurants that will cook it themselves.
It's a restaurant, yeah.
That'll just serve you the cooked food. Which, when you're starving, that's
it's like the last thing. It's like another hurdle.
Wait, I gotta wait another 10 minutes for this food that's in front of me. Like,
which might as well for me be an hour at that moment. I was just like, and I felt bad because we had ordered so much food, and then Gary's got to cook all of it, and he just starts cooking it, and I'm sitting there going like, oh man, I feel bad. And then it was like every worry that could be possibly thought of at that moment, I started worrying because it starts to like really cause a lot of smoke. And I'm like, there's a lot of smoke, man. And I'm looking around like nobody else has this much smoke. I'm like, Deary, I think we're burning it. And then I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to critique your cooking. I'm just saying like maybe we should get some of this off the thing. And then I'm like, you think they can give us a new top? And then sure enough, like within minutes.
Yeah, they come back and exchange with burners and all that type of stuff. So.
And it was first of all, it was delicious. You're a great cook. I'm lucky that
Dude,
my friend did that.
I literally just threw it on, but yeah, I mean,
so good.
I attribute it to how they marinated it and seasoned it and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and our server was awesome.
Yeah, she was fun. We were like, hey, like, because we're like, are there jackasses that just like stay here for 4 hours? Like, whenever it's an all-you-can-eat situation, you're always gonna get that one person that's gonna sit there for like 8 hours or something.
Yeah. So she was telling. I was wondering about that. We were both kind of wondering about that, and then you asked her. And she said that they had like one point in time was it 5 hours? Somebody was there?
Some guy just sat there for 5 hours, and he was like smooth about it. He like played it cool. He was like keeping conversation going to like try to distract from the fact that he's like been sitting there all day.
Yeah.
And then they realized like, hey buddy, like what's going on? Like why are you still still here? But
and then they left and they made their way out.
But
shout out to Kai. She was awesome.
Yeah, awesome waitress, awesome restaurant. It was fantastic. I also, while we're on shout outs, there's a podcast that I like. Here in Vegas called the Kickback Podcast. And you know how like how sometimes you see someone from like the side and you're like, oh, that's my friend, or that's someone I know. And then when you see the full face, it's like, oh no, that's clearly not them. So I thought that I saw, and like, I don't even know these guys. I've never met them in person, but I've watched them. They're on YouTube and TikTok and things like that.
And you comment with them,
and so,
right?
yeah, we like comment back and forth. Like we have like a internet like friendship, I would say, right? And so I'm like, oh man, that's a guy. Like, and it's like 1 a.m, and I'm like, it won't mind if I go say hi. Like,
and then you were like, is that? I think this is a guy over there. And I'm like,
and I showed Pablo the picture. He's like, yeah, that looks like the guy. Remember, we're only seeing side view of the face. And then I get there, and when I see the full view, I immediately know that's not the guy. But now I'm standing there while he's at his table, and he's looking at me like, what? And I'm
like this. He was like this. He was like,
and I had to just phone in a bullshit question. And I was like, are you from the Vegas Kickback Podcast? Like, I didn't say it confidently at all.
Yeah.
Like, even if he was, he probably was like, dude, no, dude. Like, and so I was like, oh, it's clearly not the guy. And he's like with his girlfriend, and I'm like, oh man, I'm just an annoying person to this guy at this point. I need to get out of here. But we both did comedy for many years, and so like that kind of rejection does nothing. Like it's not like whereas the whole restaurant probably looked at us like, what is wrong with those guys? Yeah. And we were like, oh, that's not the guy. Let's get in the car.
Yeah, and we're like, we're out of here. Like, who cares? Like, whatever. He's just another person now.
But that was pretty much like to wrap up the night from U2 Sphere, ended with some Korean barbecue. I'm happy that Pablo came to town. You've been a huge help with this podcast in general, by the way. Oh. I want to give you a shout out, and I don't know if you're okay with people checking out your YouTube videos from a while back at the Laugh Factory, but they're out there. They've gotten like tens of thousands of views, if not 100,000 of views.
I don't know.
To me, it's a big deal. I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. Like, that's a cool thing to have. Even if you don't do comedy anymore, like that's still like a pretty awesome thing to achieve.
They were really good to me in terms of the video. I worked there at the Improv and other places, and it was a lot of fun, But yeah, it's always been a pleasure to give any feedback I can on your podcast. You and Mary have been working really hard at this and this is an idea that David and Mary were kind of talking about. When I talked to David about it, I just kept encouraging him because he's a really smart guy, really funny, really great entrepreneur. And so I was like, just do it. Just make some episodes and then let's see what happens. Don't try to like nail down, your show at the beginning. And after a while, you started to figure out what you wanted to see happen. And so I was just kind of trying to give you some feedback to enhance that, your idea that you already had. And you did such a great job, man.
I appreciate that, man. You've been seriously a huge help for all this. I mean,
my pleasure.
We spent like an hour just setting up the cameras. Like, it's got to be this angle and do the tripod this way and the lights this way. Like, it's a whole production, and most people don't see that part of it. They just see the tip of the iceberg. But there's a lot that goes into this, and I'm really grateful to have someone like Pablo to help me at least just kind of guide me through his experience of production and things like that, just to make this thing work as best as we can. So I hope that
my pleasure.
all of you who listened and watched, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you keep listening and watching and keep continuing to enjoy. And without without, I think, I don't know. Did we get everything? Did we nail it? Did we get it?
I think we did, man.
Instagram? You want to show your Instagram or?
No, I don't know on it anymore.
That's a real behind the scenes guy. He's like, yeah, no.
Check out the Gavry. Is it the Gavry group?
Just Gavry group, Instagram.
Gavry group. Yeah.
We're on too many of them. We've got the Instagram, the Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, even on LinkedIn. Just, find us. YouTube, obviously, the podcast, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. You guys know where to find this stuff. So thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for subscribing to Vegas Faces on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok under the name Gavry Group. That's Gavri Group. Thanks, everybody. See you at the next episode.